for joining us here on KXAN Live. My name is Grace Reeder. I'm joined by digital data reporter Christopher Adams. We want to talk a little bit about the Austin mayoral race. You may be seeing some other outlets calling this race, and we want to get on and talk to you about why it is that KXAN is not calling it. So that's why I've got Christopher here. Christopher, we have talked earlier in the week a little bit about how we call these races and how mathematical it is and what you're doing behind the scenes. So talk to me a little bit about why it is that KXAN has not been able to project this race yet.
Yeah, Grace, simply it's because this race is too close to call. So like you mentioned, we've been looking at the math. We have to wait until it is mathematically impossible for a candidate in second place to catch up to a candidate in first place before we make a projection. In this case, though, it's a matter of will this go to a runoff? So to avoid a runoff, a candidate has to get 50% of the vote plus one, and that means they win outright and they are the declared winner in that race. If a candidate does not get to 50%, it goes to a runoff election where the candidates with the two most votes will face each other in the runoff in December. And this race is so close right now because Mayor Watson has 50.01% of the vote at this time. This is the unofficial results coming into us from across the city of Austin. And of course, the city of Limits covers parts of Hayes, Travis, and Williamson counties. So we're combining all three of those counties into one here. And you can see that on the screen there, this is the total number of votes that each candidate has received so far. So Mayor Watson is out in front with about 175,000 votes out of about 350,000 cast in total. So again, he's currently at 50.01% of the vote. And you might think, well, election day is over. We've already got all of the votes in, right? Well, we are still waiting for some votes to come in, some mail-in ballots that might be arriving late, some provisional ballots that have not been counted yet. And so because we don't know exactly how many of those are outstanding, we are, Grace, unable to project a winner at this time.
And I want to be clear for folks that we are asking those questions. You and I are emailing Hayes County, Williamson County, Travis County to figure out how many of those ballots they think they have, but the deadline for some of those ballots still hasn't arrived yet. Some of those mail-in ballots can still arrive by 5 p.m. today, so we may not know until end of day today how many of those lingering ballots they still have. So it may be a while before we actually know how many of those ballots remain. We do want people to know, though, that we are asking, we are staying on top of it, and you and I were digging through the Secretary of State's website earlier today to try and figure out when those deadlines are. The 19th we found is when those official results need to be posted. So that's at the end of the spectrum there. But we are also reaching out to those clerks to figure out when they think the results will be posted. So we're going to have a report for you tonight on KXAN News at 9 and 10 to bring you some of those answers. But Christopher, talk to me a little bit about also, when you were doing this reporting yesterday, it sounds like this wasn't the only race that this happened in. Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, so we've actually got a similar situation happening in the city of Manor. The incumbent mayor there, Christopher Harvey, currently has 49.66% of the vote. Again, we don't know how many outstanding mail ballots and provisional ballots there are, so that's another race where we cannot make a projection at this time, similar to what we're seeing here in the city of Austin. And to put this into perspective, into a little bit of context, currently Mayor Watson is 32 votes above the threshold to avoid a runoff. We don't know, again, how many mail-in ballots and how many provisional ballots are still to come in. The mayor did put out a press release earlier that said his campaign anticipates there are a few thousand votes outstanding. So 32 votes is the current margin to avoid a runoff. There are potentially a few thousand still to come in. And again, Grace, that's why we just cannot make a projection at this time. It is still too close to call.
And when we think there is a runoff, Carmen Yanis-Polito is in that second place position and would end up in the runoff with Mayor Kirk Watson. Should that happen, Mayor Kirk Watson has sent us a statement already, which we have on KXAN.com for you. I've also reached out to Carmen Yanis-Polito. She told me she is working on one as well, and we'll add that online for you as well. Should there be a runoff, it would mean that Austinites would need to go back to the polls and vote again. That election day would be December 14th. That's a Saturday. It just also so happens to be my birthday, Christopher. So happy birthday to me. I get to go back
definitely.
and vote for the election. We've got another race that will be happening. We already know that there will be a runoff in the Austin City Council District 7 race, but should the Austin mayoral race have a runoff, it would happen during the same time. So you may have to go back to the polls and vote again. Christopher, talk a little bit about what else you're working on here and what folks can expect from you over at KXAN.com.
Yeah, so head over to KXAN.com right now because I actually just published a new story looking at the precinct level results for the Austin mayoral election. So you can look at the map that I've got online right now, an interactive map that shows you how people in your neighborhood voted in this race. If we take a look at the map, you can see we're about to click on it here. And if we scroll down to that, you'll be able to see a lot of orange on this map. That is the color that we've got assigned to Kirk Watson. He's done particularly well out in West Austin. Slightly less support the further east you go. Just a handful of precincts, though, were, or not one because we still don't know the official results, but just a handful of precincts where Carmen Yanes-Pulido is currently leading. You can see those in the very light purple on that map, but still a lot of orange. So again, this is an interactive map. You can hover over the map and see how many votes each candidate received in your neighborhood. We're also going to be working on similar maps like this for the presidential results and the Senate results as well, so you can see how people all across Texas have voted. We're going to be working on that starting later this week. That takes a lot of time because, of course, Texas has 254 counties that we have to collect all of that data from and input that into our maps. So a lot of exciting things to come. We will be breaking down all the results coverage on KXAN.com.
Awesome. Christopher, thank you so much as always. Really appreciate it. And thank you for joining us here on KXAN Live. Again, we just wanted you to know exactly why it was that we were not calling these two races yet, what's going on behind the scenes here. But we promise you that as soon as we know, as soon as these final ballots trickle in, you'll be the first to know as well. Have a good rest of your day.